Good afternoon, Dr. Marco Carli. He's the next speaker, and he's from Italy. Okay, his talk is related to the graduate program in intelligent systems, and I'm going to give you a brief description of Dr. Marco Carli accomplishments. He currently is he's a professor at the Department of Engineering, University di Roma in Italy. He received a degree in telecommunication engineering from University di Roma. He received a PhD from Tampere University of Technology in Finland. He was a visiting professor at the image processing lab under the guidance of Professor Sanjay Mitra from University of California, Santa Barbara in the United States. His research is in digital signal processing, image processing, multimedia communications. He's been working on digital watermarking, multimedia quality evaluation, information security. He's currently editor of the Elsevier Journal Magazine Signal Processing, Image Communication, and he's also an associate editor of the IEEE Transactional Multimedia Journal Magazine. So let's welcome Dr. Marco Carli.
Thanks a lot for the nice introduction. Okay, first of all, let me share the presentation because it should be here. Compartir my. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, so thanks for inviting me in this talk. Thanks to you and to Professor Zavaleta for inviting me. I'm sorry I cannot be there physically, but anyway, it's very nice to be with you, with all of you, from a digital point of view. So today what I'm going to talk is just giving you some highlights of my research that is related to quality of experience and immersive media. This is the roadmap of my presentation. I will start with the introduction with the immersive multimedia content and more in detail to what is quality and how can we define the meaning of quality for immersive multimedia content. And at the end, I will try to show you some highlights of what is going on from a research point of view towards the assessment of quality, giving some open question and open research challenges for our PhD students. So as it was nice introduced, I'm from the University of Roma Madrid, it is in Italy. It's a pretty young university in Italy. We have only 40,000 students nowadays, and 12 departments covering all the faculties but medicine. We are open to cooperation and open to international projects. I'm personally coming from the multimedia research and security lab, and these are my research area that are mobile communication through quality evaluation up to multimedia security. So let's go back to the topic of this talk. What is immersive media? Immersive media, we can start from 1962. There is these mechanical devices showing, giving the experience of a motorbike riding through the streets of New York. It's very interesting because it is one of the first systems for giving the immersivity feeling. Immersivity means probably having the feeling of being there in the place. And in this case, immersivity is given by mechanical device, stereoscopic color displays, fans, odor emitters, stereo sound system, and motion chair. As you can see, it's a multidisciplinary system. A lot of systems, a lot of different research areas are fused together to give this feeling. And the experience was looking at the screen, so using our vision, having some feeling of the motion given by the chair that was moving, by the fan that was giving some wind in the face, and even some noise for the oral system, audio system, plus there is also some smell. The smell was giving, thinking that the guy was stopping behind a bus, and so some exhaust chemicals, and then stopping also close to a pizza snack bar. Of course, it was just the beginning, but it's still working system. Nowadays, well, nowadays is completely different. Nowadays, we have many more systems for give immersivity, like the holographic display on the left. These are the HoloLens, augmented reality system that allows to create a hologram and to put wherever you want. The pretty easy and low cost 360 cameras that allows to interact with the environment in a different way, up to the virtual reality system that is also using a system for moving, giving the sensation, the feeling of moving. So if I think to in immersive media, I think that I can, if I change my head, then I see something different from a perspective point of view. If I'm looking at an image and I move my head, the content of the image is always the same. So while from an audio point of view, several steps have been carried out, and audio is very good from an immersive point of view. From the visual point of view, we are at the beginning. And we need devices for giving immersivity. And these devices can go from smartphones that we're using all the time, desktop, up to head-mounted displays, or even some more complex system. And if you look in these images here, we have from less immersive up to the more immersive system, where for changing my point of view, in this case, with this computer, I have to use my hand, my fingers. While going through a more immersive system, I can change, I can rotate my head, and automatically the system rotate and change my point of view. Immersivity needs very specific hardware. Let's see a couple of systems. One is the augmented reality. Augmented reality is the use of real world together with computer generated data. We are still at the beginning of augmented reality. Augmented reality systems have been used in military operations, are used in some, now there are some systems for games, or even for giving more information. In this case, the goal is to add computer-generated graphics to improve the experience of a person. Head-up display are becoming common. It's been, at the moment, quite expensive cars, but they're using in some motorbike helmets. And as you can see, there are some extra information that can help the guidance of a car. Well, we will come back to this image at the end of the talk. Just look at the difference between this system. In this case, what I'm showing is not too much interactive with the user, while in this case here is almost covering the real information. So let's start thinking to the problems. To go to augmented reality, we need the three components that are head-mounted display, tracking system, and computing power that should be mobile. And these are in the years, three different starting from the first one, 1964, up to the most recent one. As you can see, what is different is the amount of power and the portability of the system. That's a real problem. Virtual reality is different. We always need some device, some appliance, but in this case, the world is completely computer generated. It requires interaction, it requires the information of depth, and gives us the feeling of being immersive. Virtual, interactive, and immersive. The interactivity part is one of the most difficult things to be achieved at the moment. So if we want to compare augmented reality versus virtual reality, well, this is an example in which you can see the difference. Basically, the display of a virtual reality system keeps out all the external world. So that's the main difference. What's called mixed reality is a mixture between augmented and virtual reality. So in the augmented reality, the user should be aware that he's in the real world, while the complete immersivity feeling in virtual reality is giving the user the feeling of being there without any extra information about what is the surrounding world. What are the tools for giving this immersivity feeling? Well, we have many. 360 camera, light field camera. We have the multi-view camera that has been extensively used in the movie theater. The virtual reality equipment based on audio and video tools, equipment for augmented reality. Now we have tactile tools, generator of noise, of smell, and so on. So the hardware, the companies that are developing tools for immersivity are really investing a lot on this field. But there is a problem. I don't know if you are using the stereo TV at home. Well, probably most of you, even if you have a stereo TV at home, you don't use anymore. The question is why? Stereo is rising up and down in the years according to the evolution of the technology. The main problem of the stereo, that is the reason why big investments have been done, but we are not using now, so we can think that is a failure, is that the technology was not ready yet. And the main component of the stereo chain, that is the final user, was not taken into account. So the quality of the experience of the user of a stereo system was not considered at all. So people had headache. People had problems in using glasses together with the stereo glasses. The attention was focused only if you were in a real 3D movie theater, where no noise, no extra light was present at the same time. So what is needed is a study of quality. Well, quality is, has been studied in the past for images and even for audio signal. It's not a new concept at all. Go back up to the ancient time. At least in Egypt was a sign of perfection, was considered one of the human, the 10 categories from Aristotle. So everybody can say, okay, yes, I know quality. But if I ask you to define quality, and unfortunately I cannot ask to some of you this question, well, probably all of you will give a different definition. And so let's go to look for a definition of quality. Generally, it can be considered a measure of something, excellent of state from being free from defects, or the International Standard Organization define quality as a complex set of features and characteristics of a product able to satisfy the needs. If you go to Google, Google even has its own definition of quality. It's a standard. Measure versus other things of similar kind. And it's the degree of excellence of something. Then we have definition for manufacturing. And actually the ISO is 9000 is a complete family of standards for defining the quality of management system. So as you can see, defining the quality is very, very difficult. Keeping in mind that then we have to find a measure for objectively have this quality definition. Basically, quality is a relative concept. We can say which is the degree of quality, but not having a real quality number. So everybody can understand, but if we have to define, even from a subjective, so from a human point of view, it's different. And even if we are together and we try to find an agreement of quality, this will not be easy. The experience done in this year show us that even if we are in the same group of people, then we will not have the same idea of quality. It depends on different aspects. And actually this is a picture that is quite okay for the definition of what is the situation. Everybody gives his own definition based on several things that are previous experience, that are the application, the scenario, that are the what I'm doing, and my own knowledge. So quality is really something that it depends strongly of the application. We can consider that we have at least 2 points of view for measuring the quality. From one side, there is an objective measure. Objective means that we are engineers, that we need to measure and to repeat this measure. So we need to find a system for measurable and variable aspects of things. And we have to express numbers. While from a subjective point of view, there are the attributes. If I'm asking you, oh, what is the quality of this conference? Well, it's pretty high, but pretty high is a definition from a person point of view. It's not measurable, okay? So as you can see, the different point of view, there is a big mismatch between these two views. For sure, what he can say, based on the experience, is that the quality is application dependent. If I have a robotic system, then the quality of the signals that allows the robot to move in a perfect way are different from the quality that I require if I'm having a game or if I'm looking at the TV movie. And the same quality is different if I'm, for example, I'm doing some surgical operation by remote. The quality of the transmission, the quality of the signal that the surgeon receives should be for sure at a different level from the one relative to the gaming system. And we have also to consider that what I've been studying up to now was related to the quality, okay, which is the bit rate, which is the PSNR, which is the bit error rate of this communication. It's concept related to the quality of service. How good is the service of communication? How good is the service of printing or transmission? While if you are including the person, the subject, then we have also to consider other aspects, and these aspects are completely multidisciplinary. We have to consider how it's easy to use, which is the design, which is the interaction, the human interaction system, if it's easy or not, if it's simple to understand, which is the price, which is the level of entertainment, or how I am engaged in. So we are going towards the definition of quality of experience. And what we want to measure in the immersivity system is actually not the quality of service, but quality of experience. So let's go back to the how to measure the quality. The simplest thing is to ask to the people to use the mean opinion score. Mean opinion score is taking a pool of people, a pool of subjects, and asking them which is your level of satisfaction. And according by doing the average of their judgment, then we have a score. The problem is that even if we want to create this subjective test, we need to do it in a reliable and reproducible way. And so we need to define protocols and modality, how to perform this subjective experiment. It's very, very complex. It takes more time. It's one of the most complicated things in evaluating the quality of something is the design of the subjective experiments that must be done. I can see some red sign in the screen. I don't know if I'm myself, but I don't think so. And the mean opinion score is generated by averaging the results of subjective test. And as you can see here, there is the list and the mean opinion score. Usually you show and give the possibility to judge the quality of what you're looking at in a range. So you try somehow to compartmentalize the possible judgment of a person, going on a scale from 1 to 5 or from 1 to 100, in order to somehow give a bound to the human possibility of give a judgment. And the subjective score is the result of test environment, test material, test methodology, and the possible analysis of data. So not easy at all. And just to show you something about the environment, what does it mean? It means what I'm using as a monitor. If I'm using a cellular phone or I'm using a 32 inches monitor, that's different. If I'm alone in a room or if I am outside in the street, well, that's a different environment. Even the light is important. If I have light diffuse or if I have under sun, well, that will be a problem too, okay? The same thing is with the material or the methodology, the instruction, the subjects are naive or not. If I need to have people with experience in the topic in order to know what I'm doing at, think to the compression of a system, or think also to this system that we're using for doing this seminar. The quality of our interaction must be judged compared to so many things, like for example, the bandwidth that we have available, the quality of the signal audio, the quality of the visual signal. So we need probably some expert in order to set up the system, okay? So the subjective test gives us the best or the most reliable system with respect to what? With respect to the human subject. If the final user is a human subject, then for sure, asking to the people is the best way to have an assessment. But the drawback is that it requires careful setup, is time consuming, is expensive. As often, if I want to monitor the quality of an online system, then I cannot repeat it. So there is a big gap. The problem is going then, let's define some objective metrics. The most usual ones are the root mean square error, the signal to noise ratio, in which we compare the result, the signal that we have with respect to the original signal. Well, these, for example, in an image, are pixel-wise differences. So they measure the impairments given by pixels. And according to the presence of the original signal or the part of the information about the original signal or the absence at all of the original signal, they can be divided in full reference, reduced reference, and no reference. We'd like to have no reference signals, of course, because if I'm transmitting a signal at the receiver side, I have only the distorted content. But of course, the most relevant and most effective metrics are the full reference metrics. Let's look at if it's true. Well, this is a reference image on the top, and here we have three different kind of rate of the same distortion, that is auditive Gaussian noise. I think that all of you can agree with the PSNR metrics, saying that this is highest quality and this is the worst quality. And I think that this is okay. But if we look at these other images, same image, different distortions. And look here, the objective matrix, the PSNR, that is the most used one at the moment, has always the same value. Well, I doubt, and I'm sure that all of you, the quality of this image is not the same that this one. So as you can see, the objective quality metrics are not completely working because they don't consider the influence, the content, the viewing condition, the application, so they can be used, but they are not reliable predictors of perceived quality. Now, let's go back to immersivity. Now we have defined quality. How can you measure the quality? Well, based on all the studies that have been done by considering the not working characteristics of the objective metrics and the difficulties of the subjective test, some new steps have been done. So first of all, which are the features that should be considered for an evaluation of the quality? There are so many features, and they depend on the content, on the distortion, and the distortion level. And from all the studies, it came out that it's not only the single quality of a media that is important, but it's important also what is inside, that is the content. And here there is an example for virtual reality. The headset can be as good as possible, but if there is no the real content, then that's a problem. And this is what happened in China. The content of stereo signals of the stereo movies was not so high, and there was not so much content. And this is the reason why stereo is going down in this period. So we did some study about the quality of the content and the impact of the content on the quality. This is our pictures, and each picture was made on a TripAdvisor. We asked to the people, would you be interested in buying this trip to go in this place? As you can see, there is completely different content. And then we have modified the quality of these images by changing the contrast. So increasing or decreasing the contrast. And then we have looked at the results. So this is the contrast modification, starting from 0 to -35, +35, and this is the mean opinion score. What can we notice? First, there is not so much difference. So even if you change a lot the contrast, you decrease the contrast, so the image is much darker, yes, people is less willing to take this trip. But there is not so much difference. Then we ask to the people, why have you given this vote to this image? From the analysis of the answer to this verbal questionnaire, it came out that the content was not appealing. Even if the quality of the image was the same, but in this case, the content was more relevant than the quality of the image itself. So modifying the quality of the image, contrast modification, was somehow masked by the fact of the content. And actually there were, we studied also which was the age, the average age. Well, all the interviewed people were young people. And so they were not interested at all in going in this place or in this place. Okay, so that's another part. And we studied then again, let's see which is the difference of the content with respect to quality. There is this database that is TID 2013. It is one of the most used in image quality assessment, and to several distortion, 24, with different rate of distortion, going for very small distortion to very big distortion. It should be expected that more or less all the lines are more or less in the same trend, have the same trend. But as you can see, there are some distortions that are completely mismatching, that doesn't follow at all the trend. Well, even in this case, it seems that the distortion is not the only characteristic that must be considered. Even the feature of the content should be considered. If we study the metrics, the objective metrics, these are objective metrics that are widely used in the world to measure. Well, the correlation with the mean opinion score, as you can see, is varying. There is no real winner. Each metrics work very well for a particular kind of distortion, but for other, for example, is completely wrong. And in some cases, there is really a failure. 0.5 as a correlation means completely random noise. It means that all these metrics, some of them are based on pixel error, some of them are based on some human vision system information, but all of them, they are not able to catch what is the human judgment. And if you go to immersive media, the situation is even worse, because while for 2D images and for video, we know exactly how to display a video, how to display an image, we have enough experience from viewer point of view of how should be a TV transmission for being nice. Well, in case of immersive media, there is a lack of scientific understanding on many things. Is really, we are in the point in which if we study very well these problems, then virtual reality, augmented reality, and so on will have a future. Otherwise, they will follow the same end of the stereo systems. There are so many ongoing efforts in the world. All of these are standardization groups, starting from IEEE, MPEG, Qualinet, and so on. And they are studying, together with companies, this problem, the problem that I'm just showing you. There's some guidelines have been defined for objective metrics, so how to create a database, how to classify the source content, which are the quality factors that should be taken into account, how to evaluate the system, so effectively how to carry out the experiment up to the building the objective metrics. So some guidelines design, however, we can only go step by step, and we are at the beginning. So even if some cases we can give some hints, for example, for 360 video is a unidirectional case. Why? Because as if the person is immersed in the scene, but he cannot do anything. While in interactive system, we have also to consider the personal or the machine interaction with the system. And it means that when we will define some quality, it will not be only one metrics, okay? It will be strictly depend on the system and on the application. Even why in the immersive system, we don't have soltanto the visual system, we have the audio, we have the feeling of presence, we have how to display, then there are problems of compression, transmission, capturing. There are systems that cause sickness. And so that's a big problem, okay? Well, if you want to somehow assess this problem, we should consider all these points together. Audiovisual quality, the feeling of presence, lack of sickness, which is effectiveness, how was the capturing system done, how is the compression, the coding system, the transmission, the display. It's really a big issue. And what I'm showing now is some studies on three different cases. The first one is the virtual reality. And in order to understand the virtual reality, think that you have this head-up display, this mounted display, and you turn your head and you look around. The first thing is what to look, where people look. This is an image, 360, and this is the eye tracker of the subjects. So what the people are looking at, what is attracting the attention. Why? Because in understanding what is the quality of this image, maybe I should also consider that the average of the person look in this area first, and mainly in this area that is called equatorial. And very barely they go up and down. But if you think to moving the head up and down, you will see that when you're looking at, even at the monitor now, you're trying to stay in this position. It is a rest position for your head and for your body. So as you can see, the attention is drawn mainly to the things that are in the central part. Okay, the other study that has been done, is it really true that the people look at the center here? The study performed showed that no, it's not really true. So it's not true that we are looking in the middle of an image. If it is a 2D image, then we are looking, probably we have time and we look to all the image. But the study performed with the eye tracker showed that people is looking at the center. But with the 360 image, so with the virtual reality, this is the area. So usually people don't look barely at the center of the scene, but look just a little around the center of the system. Oh, and this, well, this means that if I have an artifact in the center of the scene, probably will not be seen with the same attention of an artifact in this area. So when I do for example, the peak signal to noise ratio on the comparison between an original and a distorted 360 image, I should consider this part too. We try this approach. So we have developed several systems. The first one is using simply the feature-based approach, low-level analysis, high-level analysis, post-processing, and then we compare. We have created a saliency map. So this is a system for creating an object in automatic way, a saliency map, using only low-level and high-level features. So the hue, the saturation, all these systems are well known for 2D images. Plus, we had some high-level features, means the skin, because you know that human vision system is really attracted by the presence of skin. And this is the correlation between the estimated saliency with respect to the ground truth. For some images, it's working well. For some other, no. Let's improve the system. Let's include some visual attention modeling. Visual attention modeling is based on the fact that if there is a face, all the study shows that we are really attracted by the face in the scene. True and not. It's true if the faces are isolated. It's not true if there is a crowd. But anyway, by adding to the previous method the weighted face detection, the results improved. You see, the results, even if we are still very, very far from what is a good correlation system, there should be one in principle, but the results improve. Let's improve again. Let's modify again. These are pretty recent studies. Let's consider if there are objects that are relevant from the human being. So let's find an object detector by using machine learning algorithms. We consider all of what we have done before, plus we include this object detector. As you can see, this is a very small step in order to understand what is relevant, what features are relevant from the human point of view with this new media. Well, even in this case, the situation is improved because we are going to 0.8, but still, the question is now, what are the permanent objects? What is relevant as an object for the human being? So as you can see, the question is always there. What is important? But we are slowly going towards the direction of a metric for the 360 image. Let's change media. Let's go to a different media. If I move my head left and right with respect to the monitor, I can see what is behind the monitor. And this is the idea behind the large camera arrays. This is the first, one of the first systems. Then is this Stanford multi-camera array. And then we have also this Litro camera, that now Litro is no more in production, but still we are using it. So for the light field quality, light field systems. Light field system, more or less, they're able to capture all the light field going through the camera by using this micro lens array. Basically, I do not obtain one image, but obtain a bunch of small images. And in each small images, it comes the light coming from different position. So by using some post-processing, I'm able to do refocusing of the image or slight motion of the images. And just to be fast, this is the light field communication chain. We have the lenslet data. Then based on some pre-processing, then I will have for sure coding, distribution, decoding because it's pretty high. And then I have the post-processing. Well, one of the questions with this new media is, okay, if I have an image, I know that I will project the image on a screen and I will see the image. But if I have this kind of data that allows me some immersive system because it gives me all the information about the light that is coming in the area, what can I do? Which is the best way for reproduce this system? So actually, we would need some holographic display, but most of us don't have an holographic display at home because it costs 200,000 euros. So what is the simplest thing is to use a virtual reality system for looking at this image or 2D display. And this is what we started to do, showing on a 2D display this data. This is an example of what can be done. We can have one image, we fix the depth, we can have a pseudo video, and this is what I was telling you that it allows with one shot to have some extra information. It can refocus the video, so showing from one point to another and having this different depth sensation, or taking a couple of them and have these refocus images. We did an experiment in which we prepare a set of images with these 5 different systems for rendering in a 2D display. And the results were, okay, there was no real winner. Most of the people prefer to see the 2D display. But the motivation is simple because we are used to the display. So it's a lack of being used to this new media, okay? And the other thing is that even in this case, the selection of the features to be considered in the evaluation of the quality was quite relevant. See, these are the results of the mini opinion score with respect to the sources, the different kind of visualization techniques. Looking at this plot, I can see that there is no winner. The extended depth of field, that is correspond more or less to the 2D image, is always preferred, but not always. In some case, the pseudo video is preferred by the people. Pseudo video means let's select from these images some sub-images to create a video. Well, you see how many we have. It depends on the definition of the lensless sensor. So even in this case, once we understood that the pseudo video could be a relevant way for showing these new media, then we have to select what was the best way for selecting this video. We did some trials, taking the image in a spiral, in this way, in vertical scan, zigzag scan, and again, we did again a subjective experiment. As you can see, different content, different features to be considered, different frame speed, 28 subjects, and so on. And these are the results. Can we say something from these results? Well, not too much. Pseudo video is still the best one, even if some of them can be discarded. So as you can see, it's a very slow process to understand how should be at the end what we present to the people. If we present to the people, to the population, this system, they will not understand and it will be rejected. So millions of investment in this new media will be thrown. While if we go in this direction, probably people will start to appreciate the new media and will feel that, okay, maybe this can be used for immersive system. Again, another subjective experiment. Some data sets have been done. A lot of people is working on this system, MPEG, Nokia. So the name of the companies that are behind this work, Microsoft and so on, is pretty huge. Just a small, because then I hope that I still have 5 minutes, on quality evaluation of augmented reality. Well, augmented reality is even worse than virtual reality because at all, there is no standard. So we are involved in several standards in international organizations, but the ideas are quite still at the beginning, quite confused. And there is no way of understanding how to measure the quality of experience. Several, for sure, in augmented reality, we need to understand which is the device, which is the network. The network is pretty important because all the process is not done only on the system. You think to the Google Glass. The Google Glass were a big things few years ago, but then they disappeared. No one is now using the Google Glass because the project was canceled. While the HoloLens, the Microsoft HoloLens, are now in the second edition. And there are a lot of companies that are doing augmented reality glasses, but all of them have to consider this part here. Okay, there are so many factors that you have to take in account that, yes, it can be that augmented reality will be our future, but we are not so close. Still, the research has to work. And here, for example, is a recent approach that is trying to decompose the quality of experience in different parameters. And for each of these parameters, they have to be studied in detail. So the user interaction, the environment understanding, the hardware quality, the content quality. And again, as you can see, is a divided impera problem. So starting from the big problem to go up, for example, to the speed of the system that gives the feedback to the user when he's touching. I don't know if you ever used the HoloLens, but the click of the mouse is this one. Why the click of the mouse is known? Because when you press the button, you hear the click and you have a tactile click. This gives us the feedback. Well, in augmented reality, we should do something similar, but we don't have anything. We have error. So that's a huge problem in the evaluation. Then running subjective tests, while for 2D, this is how a person is in virtual reality. So you see this guy, and is it liking what he sees or not? Well, we don't know. We are studying even from the motion of the person, which is the behavior of the person while looking at the virtual reality or an augmented reality, try to guess which is the quality of its experience. But this is just a study of it. And now let's go back to the first slide, augmented reality. Because we are involved even in an international project of the use of augmented and virtual reality for safety purposes. Safety purposes means for people that are driving ambulance, firefighters, first responders. Do you think that this way of presenting information that are needed, which is the best treat, would help, would tolerate, or would be effective for a driver of an ambulance? The question is pretty relevant because we did an experiment with firefighters showing them this kind of data. They say never, we will never use such a system because it's covering part of the street. So as you see, it's not only a technical point of view, it's also how to present the information to the user, how to exploit the extra information. They should be effective. They should not create, in this case, confusion. And if you notice, augmented reality, the head-up display that are in the cars are really small. And for the moment, only very few models of the cars are using them. Why? Because there is this lack of studies that nowadays we are carrying out. So which are the challenges? The challenges from the point of view are many, are multidisciplinary and are not answered. We need, first of all, for sure, a well understanding of the subjective perception. We need to understand the parameters that are behind this perception. We need data set, we need content, and from a research point of view, the open questions are many. For example, how to perform subjective tests with the interactive immersive system, how to define the protocols, how to understand what is relevant for human or even for machine, because if the final user is a machine, the concept of quality is completely different. Which is the impact of the transmission? Now every day, everything is transmitted and coded. So it's true that there are new efforts, for example, MPEG or JPEG, they are studying new coding system for HR and VR systems. But which is the impact of this coding system? We are talking about huge amount of data to be transmitted. The bandwidth that we now have available with fiber, if we have to transmit everything, will not be, again, enough. Which are the impairments? So there are so many challenges. This is really an open world. The goal is still far to be reached, and we need a lot of different research area, in order to find a solution. Engineering alone is not enough, for sure. We need behavioral, we need people that is doing design, we need people that is studying the human vision, human reaction, and maybe at the end, we will arrive to a joint system. So thanks, these are colleagues that are working with me, and thank you very much for your attention.
Muchas gracias, doctor Marco Carli. Ahora pasaremos a la sesión de preguntas. A continuación, cedo el micrófono al doctor Roberto Rosas para moderar la sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Les recuerdo que ustedes pueden vertir todas sus dudas en nuestro chat.
Hello, thank you, Dr. Carli. There are some questions here. There is one very interesting. It says that, let me check. It has to do with ethical considerations. If there are ethical considerations when developing immersive media,
Yes.
documentary like social dilemma. It shows the use of it shows the influence of social media in our lives.
Yes, ethics is one of the main problems, because you can use actually, if you remember the experiment of the travel agency, we were trying to understand how an unwanted modification of the quality of the image could have influenced the opinion of the people. So from a ethical point of view, we are going to a world in which it is pretty easy to modify the content. And the modification of the content and of the quality, because it's enough to compress in a different way two images. And then the opinion of the person changes. So the ethics should always be considered. And in all the subjective experiments, we have an ethic protocol considering the use of different systems, even because when you are, for example, using the eye tracker, well, first of all, before doing a subjective experiment, you are screened for your vision. You should not have been colorblind. But the information of being colorblind is a private information. So even this part of the ethics should be considered while doing some study like that. And then if you're using, for example, the eye tracker, you can discover that the person, the subject, has some impairment. And maybe he doesn't know. And you cannot publish this information. So even the interaction between who is preparing the study and each subject must undergo an ethics study. So ethics for sure is somehow is a limiting factor, but in another case, I'm happy that there is this factor.
Thank you, Dr. Carli. There is one more question. There is a colleague of you in here, Dr. Isabel Guzman. There is another question. It says that, to which degree can we trust in the quality evaluations obtained by surveys of the quality perceived by different subjects, considering that may exist bias caused by different culture, education levels?
Okay, for 2D images, the quality evaluation can be trusted because, for example, for TID 2013 database, there is also the evaluation given by 300 subjects. So from a statistical point of view, the number of subjects is big enough for having significance. You take the average of the results and you consider the confidence interval of this system. And the results were obtained from different countries. So we are fusing different countries. For sure, if you do a specific system, then in that case, the culture is important. The education level is important. Another system for doing a subjective experiment is to use the crowd. So you put your test on internet and then you ask to hundreds of people to give you the judgment. The problem is that you cannot trust completely them. So you need really, really high numbers in order that the average, after doing the screening of the data, because there is someone that is just clicking yes, 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 you usually pay the people for doing these subjects, this test. So to be paid, I am able to click, yes, 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 without looking at. So there is, and yes, it's measurable. There are systems for measuring, which is the effectiveness and the reliability of the judgment. For example, taking together the confidence interval is an indicator of the goodness of what you have done. Crowdsourcing, yes. The crowdsourcing, we have done some tests with crowdsourcing. There are also studies on how can we trust the crowdsourcing, which is the problem that for 2D, for images and video, you can do it. But if you have to have virtual reality and augmented reality, it's very, very difficult that everybody has an augmented reality system at home. So it cannot be done. Even the virtual reality, even if now with the cellular phone there are applications that can help, but a display, head-mounted display is not so common. What is common and easier is the 360 images. Now it's pretty cheap, and even the new cellular phones have the 360 images. Plus, I don't know if you noticed, but for sure you noticed that the new cellular phone, mobile phone, now have at least 2 or 3 cameras in the back of the phone. 2 or 3 cameras is the beginning of the light field display, of the multi-camera. So as you can see, the hardware, the technology is pretty close in this case to the, not to the light field concept, but to the multi-view concept. And already there are some test phones, mobile phone, with up to, I think, 15 cameras. These information are fused together to create a better experience from a picture point of view.
Okay, Dr. Carli. One last question. When we are trying to build a realistic scenario or environment, what do you consider is the most important feature?
It depends which is the application. To consider the application. For example, we are building for a project a virtual museum. A virtual museum is, in virtual reality, is taking pictures of all the pictures of a particular painters that are spread around the world and put together in a way that, especially in this period we cannot move, we give to the people the possibility to visit, to enjoy these arts. In this case, the application is very, very important. It's one of the most important things because we had to create this system, we had to use expertise from museum designers, from light people, how to put the light in the virtual area in order to give the not a spot light on the frames, how to display the frame with respect to the virtual wall, which would be the mobility of a person inside this virtual world. We did an experiment with the 2 people in the impaired people. They could not move, but using this teleport system, they were able to move along the museum. The application is very, very important. And based on the particular application, the design must change.
Okay, Dr. Carli, it has been very interesting and educational. Thank you so much for your presentation and your answers.
Thanks to you. It's been a pleasure. I hope in future to be able to visit you. Thanks a lot.
Gracias, Dr. Carli y Dr. Rosas. A continuación, tendremos la presentación de videos de estudiantes de